Before taking his life on April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler and his mistress Eva Braun had all their documents, pictures, everything burned. Hitler wanted nothing to be left behind him. At that time, no one knew what all had happened in the bunker before Hitler's death. But now, 70 years later, because of a French officer, Commandant Raymond Rose, who is no longer in this world, and a private diary, some new political and personal documents of Hitler have come to light. These unique documents, which have now come to light for the first time, give an opportunity to understand the few important moments of Hitler's last days in a more clear way. What was the atmosphere of the bunker like? Why did Hitler marry Eva Braun just 24 hours before his death? Which close companion of Hitler's betrayed him in the last 10 days of his life? When was the decision made in which he planned to take his own life? And most of all, what was that thing because of which the Allied forces came to know that this dead body was indeed Hitler's? Welcome once again to the videos of Zemra TV. Viewers, after Hitler's death, everyone was trying to see and understand the bunker. On November 25, 1945, Commandant Raymond Rose, who was a French officer, went inside the bunker. To go inside the bunker, there were 26 stairs, which were leading towards a dark room. There, he saw a dark and dirty room where scattered papers, overturned furniture, and candle wax were lying everywhere. Rose found some such documents that shed new light on Hitler's last days. These documents tell us that Hitler was firm on his decision until the very end, and he was searching for victory for himself even in his death. Just 10 days before Hitler's death, the dream of Nazi Germany, which was once seen for ruling the world, had now become just a dream. Hitler's empire, which was once one of the most powerful empires in the world, and which had become a bone in the throat of the Western powers, was now counting its last moments. Berlin, which was Hitler's dream and the center of his power, had become a heap of rubble. There was a scene of destruction, fear, and death all around. Bombs of the Allied forces were raining everywhere, and the Red Army was just 100 kilometers away. Hitler, who was about to become the target of his own hunt, was now hidden in the darkness of a bunker that was built 7 meters below the ground near the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. This was not an ordinary bunker, but it was made very strong and bomb-proof according to the design of Albert Speer, who was Hitler's personal architect. It was built in 1936, but then in 1943 and 1944, after the Allied bombing became more dangerous, it was made even stronger. This bunker was called Führerbunker in the German language. Führer means leader, so it was the leader's bunker. This was the bunker where Adolf Hitler, who dreamed of his rule over the entire world, was hiding, and it was here that he spent the last days of his life. The atmosphere of the bunker was very depressed. Silence, thick walls of concrete, cold, and with a moist atmosphere, the rule of darkness prevailed. This bunker was like a labyrinth, which had small corridors and rooms where there was a feeling of suffocation. In this bunker, there was a private space of 3 rooms for Hitler, out of which one was a meeting room, where he used to hold meetings for his military operations twice a day. There was a small room for Eva Braun, who was his mistress, and they also had a shared bathroom. The atmosphere of this bunker was filled with depression and fear. Due to being below the ground, there was a mechanical ventilation system for the air, which kept making noise all the time. This noise was not just physically uncomfortable, but was also a mental torture for the people living there. In the last 10 days, Hitler was broken not only physically, but also mentally. He had got Parkinson's disease, that is, the disease of shaking hands. To hide this disease, he often used to keep his left hand in his pocket or would keep it in such a position that the person in front would not be able to know. In the last 10 days, his hand used to tremble continuously, and he also had difficulty in walking. Doctors say that in the last 10 days, Hitler's face was so pale and tired that he started looking 10-15 years older than his age. During these days, all the officers who used to meet him were shocked to see his deteriorating health condition. Even Hitler's personal doctor, Theodor Morell, who was present in the bunker, used to give him injections of glucose and vitamins daily, but all this was not enough to improve his health. Hitler losing control over his hand was the biggest proof of his falling morale. The daily routine in the bunker was extremely boring. Every morning, there was a military meeting in which his generals would inform him about the situation of Berlin. The news of him gradually losing control over Berlin was frustrating Hitler. The nature of Hitler included distrust. That is, he did not trust anyone easily. This was the reason that even in his last days, he used to be worried about whether any of his generals might betray him, and in reality, something like that happened later on as well. In the last days, when everyone was thinking of running away from the bunker, Eva Braun supported Hitler. Eva Braun was Hitler's mistress for 13 years. They were not married, but still she used to live with Hitler in the bunker. Experts say that staying with Hitler in the bunker was Eva Braun's insistence, and perhaps this was also the reason for Hitler's weakness. Eva was a romantic and emotional girl who wanted to stay with Hitler until the end. Some letters of Eva have been found which she wrote to her friends. After reading these letters, something could be known about the private life of Hitler and Eva. The purpose of Eva's life was to stay with Hitler. In one of her letters, she had written that, "This place is very scary, but I am happy here because Hitler is with me." Inside the bunker, Eva's daily routine was very limited. She often used to spend time in her room, arranging her photographs or sometimes drinking coffee with Hitler. But one thing that can be understood from her letters is that Eva Braun was feeling very lonely. These letters not only show Eva's love and loyalty, but also show the fear and loneliness inside her. Talking about the situation outside the bunker, in the last 10 days, Berlin had become a battlefield. Allied bombers were dropping bombs on Berlin every day and every night. The Red Army, that is, the military of the Soviet Union, was fighting with Hitler's army on the border of Berlin, a few kilometers away from the bunker. Undoubtedly, Hitler's army had 900 tanks and around 5 lakh German soldiers to keep Berlin safe at that time. But despite all this, the forces of Nazi Germany were melting. Hitler, who had a dream of ruling here for 1,000 years, was now seen failing badly. The people of Berlin were trying to save their lives by hiding in bunkers and under roofs, but on the other hand, only Nazi propaganda and music were heard on the radio. Within no time, the soldiers of the Red Army defeated the German forces on all sides of the outskirts of Berlin. A German soldier told that when he came back to Berlin, it was difficult for him to recognize the city because there were only heaps of rubble all around. This was the time when the German army also started seeing the end of Hitler's leadership.
A few days before Hitler's death, another drama unfolded. Hermann Göring, who was the chief of the German Air Force in the Nazi regime, expressed his intention that he wanted to gain power. Hermann Göring was a close companion of Hitler, to whom Hitler had given different positions. In 1933, Hitler made him the in charge of the Air Ministry. In 1935, the commander-in-chief of the German Air Force. In 1936, the in charge of the four-year plan, which was made to boost Germany's economy. And then in 1941, Hitler gave Hermann Göring the post of his successor and deputy. That is, after Hitler, Göring had to take control. Göring believed that Hitler was trapped in Berlin and now the control of the leadership should come into his hands. He sent a telegram to Hitler in which he wrote that if Hitler could not take any more decisions, he should officially transfer the leadership. Seeing this telegram, Hitler, who was already quite depressed, became furious. He removed Göring from all positions and declared him a traitor and issued orders to arrest him. Later, Hermann Göring was arrested and sentenced to death, but he took his own life by consuming poison just a few hours before his death.
On one side, the Red Army was entering Berlin, and on the other, Hitler's close companion had betrayed him. All this atmosphere was forcing Hitler to do everything that he had never even thought of. It was April 29th, 1945. Hitler called the people around him and said that the time had come. At 1 a.m. at night, he officially married his old mistress, Eva Braun. This marriage took place in the same bunker in front of 2 or 3 officers. After getting married, he called his secretary and asked her to write his will, in which Hitler's words were that I and my wife Eva have chosen death. For us, death is better than the shame of surrendering. Unfortunately, this marriage was only for one day. On April 30th, 1945, at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, Hitler poisoned his dog named Blondie and went into the room with Eva. Exactly 24 hours after the marriage, both of them ended their lives in the room itself. Hitler took his life with a pistol, while Eva embraced death by consuming a cyanide capsule. The staff of the bunker had instructions beforehand, so they took both the bodies to the courtyard and set them on fire. Hitler did not leave any trace behind. Before death, both of them burned the documents and their private pictures, and in the end, they also gave the order to burn themselves. All this shows that Hitler did not want to hand himself over to his enemy, even at the time of death, so that even the Soviet soldiers could not occupy his body and show it to the world as a trophy. For this reason, he had given the order to burn his body. When the Red Army reached the bunker, they found only burnt remains. But it was found out after a lot of investigation that these were Hitler's when they took the samples of Hitler's teeth. Hitler had a strict hatred for going to the dentist, so he had a very unique gold bridge built which covered his broken teeth. It was with this bridge that Hitler's body was identified. This was the complete story of the last 10 days of Adolf Hitler's life, which were spent inside the bunker in Berlin. I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, then like it and share it with your friends. Also, do subscribe to Zemra TV.